the first case that we did this week actually had something to do with them collapsing and breaking the student loan system. And so we have basically said, you can't basically eradicate the student loan system. Still 45 million people are in it, and you got to reopen the websites and make sure that people can apply and make sure people can pay their debt down and things like that. The one I think you're talking about is that at the end of the day, and I hate bureaucracy the way most people do. I think that if you could make it more efficient and the president could make it more efficient, I'm with him in terms of doing that stuff. But evisceration of and abandonment of the role of education in the federal government is different than being efficient in terms of bureaucracy. So what we're looking at is that EO and making sure that kids, like in Massachusetts, which has the highest NAEP scores in the country, Massachusetts wants to keep the close to $300 million it gets from the federal government for Title I to do the programs that it does. Florida, who has the lowest NAEP scores and who was there with the president yesterday, we've said, don't actually take this money and put it into vouchers. Use this money in a way that really helps kids. So what we're about is making sure that the federal role, which is not curriculum, which is not graduation requirements, all these states, they're the ones who actually do education. The federal role is about ensuring opportunity for all kids. And that is what we're fighting for. And that's what we're going to sue to protecting individual kids and their right to an adequate and frankly, an equitable and a real and a great education.
Randi, I know we're talking about a couple of different things here, and it's great to have you with us. I wonder if there's a role that Congress plays in this as well. You have a legal path, and much of the check and balance we've seen against this administration over a course of issues. I could go through immigration, the DOGE cuts, and so forth. In this case, you're talking about student loans, but also the undoing of the Department of Education. Do you have the ear of Democrats on Capitol Hill who can make a difference? Or have you already picked your course, and that's the legal one?
No. Look, and I laughed because I'm a lawyer and I'm a union activist, but I'm an AP Gov teacher. I'm a social studies teacher. So of course it's the Congress. They're the Article I branch of the Constitution. They're the ones who are supposed to be doing it.
You feel like breaking into Schoolhouse Rock with us right now, Randi?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, oh my God, maybe I have to give this course in Congress. But of course, they're the ones that's supposed to be doing it. And even the president's EO suggested that. And, this morning I was on a press conference with Catherine Clark, who is from Massachusetts, one of the leaders of the Democrats in the House of Representatives. And they're fighting it as well. This is the dilemma. And it really is a dilemma. And look, you said it in your last segment. The president's men are with the president's men, including all the people in Congress. And there's a point in time when you swear an oath to the Constitution, not to individual people who are president. And this really is in the Congress's arena, and they really should be dealing with this. But this is what I worry about. I just used the student debt example. You can eviscerate a department by laying off its people, by shutting down a web service or online service. And so what I don't want is I don't want it so shut down in so many ways that kids are really hurt. And then somebody says, oops, we didn't mean to do that. Kids go through kindergarten once. We already saw during COVID the long-standing problems that happened when schools were shut down too long. We got to make sure we get this right for kids.
Obviously, this is something that the president is very keen on doing. In this time of Doge, when you look around and you think, are there some areas that you believe you obviously don't want to see the cuts, but could be cut, areas of bloat?
Yes, of course. I mean, anybody who knows me, I used to rail against this New York City Department of Education all the time. I think that bloated bureaucracy is wrong. I think that there should be more money that is at the school level. I think there's too many different layers of questioning and things like that. But this is what's so special about this particular funding, like Title I, IDA, sorry to throw out names like this. We have fought for years to get this directly to schools for kids for certain reasons so that it doesn't get subject to the bloat. And so that $100 billion, virtually all of it goes directly to schools. What I'm concerned about is what happens if it doesn't. Like I've given the example a lot of Truman High School gets like $2-3 million in Title I money from the federal government. They use it to lower class size. They use it for after-school programs. They use it for summer school programs. They use it for for a bunch of different things that are considered enrichment, as well as things that are considered remediation. What happens if all of a sudden the state of New York says, oh, no, we're not giving it to you for that? And you call the Department of Education and there's nobody answering the phone to force them to do that. What happens if, Mayor Adams says, no, we don't want to use it for that. We need it for something else. So we need enough bureaucracy to actually make sure that the intended purposes are met.